something's in my spinal cord, so I'm never gonna feel below my waist again or walk, or I'm gonna die of cancer because it just happened to my uncle, and the ER doctor didn't know any specifics. It's just what she could kind of tell and see. So I'm just sitting there like, that was just like going through my head.
Welcome to Beyond the Scale, the show where everyday heroes share their stories on how they turn their lives around for the healthier. I'm Coach Brittany, and today's guest is Joey Carso. He talks about overcoming stage 4 cancer and how you can adopt a no-excuse mentality. Hope you enjoy. Welcome, Joey Carso. Thank you for being in the studio today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have an amazing story, and I really just want to dig in and help our listeners learn where you came from, the struggles you faced, and how you overcame those.
Sounds good.
So, I mean, where did life start for the little Joey Carso?
Born and raised in North Hollywood, Los Angeles area. My old man left, I was about 6, or my younger brother was 2, so kind of grew up single household, and went from there. Grew up at the Parks and Rec a lot, so we kind of hung out there, avid at the pool all the time, and then just when I hit middle school, my mom met my stepdad.
Okay.
So it was a whole new transition of life and moving and
now was that all like positive times for you?
Yeah, it was also like awkward times. You know, you're in that 13, 14-year stage, and you're
course.
just kind of like, okay, all my friends are gone, what? So,
yeah.
So it was a little bit of that. It was definitely a total life transition as far as just what life was. So we were kind of like apartment living forever, and then now, we're moving into a house, like, cool, backyard. So it's like those aspects were cool. And then it was just a little bit awkward also to now have a man around all the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So my brother was a whole lot more rebellious about it than I was, but we had always had each other. So it was kind of even going there, and at our age, there's plenty of rooms. We could have separated rooms, but no, we still shared
Stuck
rooms.
together.
Yeah,
just
went that route. So I mean, that was kind of like life through high school. Then ended up going to junior college. I was debating about military life and did all that kind of stuff, but then kind of had an idea. I was like, no, I think I want to go to school. I may want to look to be a cop and something of that nature. So ended up going to junior college and finished that up, and then started going through like the processes of joining like a police force, and it just wasn't happening. Just didn't seem like it was a correct fit when I went to interviews, because I looked at it, it's like, I'm interviewing you too, and I'm like, maybe this isn't the lifestyle I want. So at the time I was running heavy equipment, put myself through school, so it paid the bills, it was okay, but I wanted more. Like I wanted to be in like management or something of that nature if I was going to stay in construction. So I enrolled at UCLA and into their construction management program. And so I'd run heavy equipment and go to school at night and deal with the fabulous 405 freeway.
Oh, lovely.
And it was difficult times, because it was 18-hour days by far. So not much time for me. School all night, work all day. I'd be the only one in class with muddy boots. Everyone else is like, their companies were there and like, oh, here, we're going to pay for you to go. So I had a guest speaker in one of my classes who picked on me the whole class, but in a positive way, because he saw I was the only one that was like, this is like the only working guy here per se, and he actually got me lined up with a company to interview with.
Nice.
And I got into the fence trade to start off as far as management, but I was able to learn about the legal aspects of construction, so it was a good stepping stone, and was there for a couple years, and then I had 2006 rolled around, and I ended up I got sick, so ended up getting diagnosed with cancer.
And this, which that had to have been so hard for you to take, especially being, how old were you at that point?
I was 24.
Yeah, and were you still at UCLA at that point?
No, I was actually graduated in May from there. So it was like I had like the highs of the highs and the lows of the lows in 2006. It was I literally got engaged in 2006, graduated school, but my brother passed away, and then also I got diagnosed. at the same time. So it was like you had like the super highs of highs, where you should be on cloud nine for a while, and then like just as rock bottom as it could get. And it pretty much changed life, like just 180. I mean, everything, you know, it was like bumpy road, you know, here and there, but everything was kind of just progressing. And then you hit like a roadblock like that, and it's just like, everything's just like something through a dynamite stick. Like everything was like, life as you knew was like, I don't know what's going on. So it was, but you know, it's one thing about cancer is it's very schedule oriented, so you don't really have a say of anything you get to do anymore. Like, you know, like every other week you're here, this treatment, that treatment, and so it was a structure, but not the one you really want to be on.
No, not at all. And now you were diagnosed with stage 4,
Yeah,
correct?
stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Got it. Okay.
So it was awkward in the sense that it's technically a blood and bone cancer that never showed up in my blood or bones. So I only had lymph nodes, since they have their own circulatory system. So mine actually started in my spinal cord. So I was going, while I was working, I would start to have trouble like feeling in my feet. I was having like issues just like the restroom, you know, you're like not knowing what's kind of going on, and it's progressively getting worse, and my back was sore. And I go to a doctor, and I'm 24, they're like, oh, you know, it's probably some muscle spasms, you know, go get a massage, or here's some ibuprofen, you're okay. And I'm like, you know, I was in the field for years and lifted 90-pound pegs of concrete, and another had an issue. Now I'm like in the office and things aren't feeling right. So it ended up being that it worked myself into a Sunday morning. I woke up and I was completely paralyzed from my waist down.
Oh my gosh.
And so obviously then,
Had to be terrifying.
It was, it was horrible. And it was more of the not knowing what was going on right then.
Right.
Was just kind of like, well, you know, I'm young, they'll figure it out, and hopefully everything's okay. Because I didn't do anything. I know I didn't injure myself. I just didn't know what was going on. It was more, you know, I'm in the ER, and the ER doctor's just like, well, I'm gonna order you an MRI, but, you know, you're lucky we're slow, because it's the ER. This is life or death. You're not in good shape, but you're living, you're fine. So thank God it was slow, you know, and I got my MRI, and then she came back in like almost like glassy-eyed, like she had cried. And I'm like, you know, what's going on? She's just like, she goes, I'm just very sorry that I told you what I told you. And I was just like, okay. And she's like, well, we did your back, and you have 3 tumors like in your spinal cord. And she's like, that's why it's been progressively getting worse, because they've been getting bigger. So different things that runs through there, which is everything, was slowing down. And she goes, it kind of looks like lymphoma. And I'm like, oh, like, okay. And so she's like, we're putting you on spinal precautions. We're sending you to a main headquarters hospital, and the ambulance will be here in like half an hour. And I'm like, okay. And
like, did it really sink in at that point yet?
Not yet, because I'm like sitting there, and I'm just like, you know, my mom's like one super emotional. Sorry, like I've learned to wear like my heart on my sleeve, like from her, but she's not as good as holding back her emotions. So I'm like sitting over there, I'm thinking, okay, I've got to be like kind of straight face and just like nod and smile and listen, because I know if like I start to half lose it, then she's gonna be like bonkers, because like obviously she's in there with me. And so it was it didn't really sink in until I had my ambulance ride, because like I'm in there and I'm in the back by myself, and I had like one of the most amazing like EMTs like in the back, and I just sat there, and you know, she's sitting with me and she's kind of like doing her paperwork as we're driving, and I sat there, and it's like I felt like a couple tears just kind of like go down. I mean, I'm taped to a board, so it wasn't like I could really move or do anything. But and then she just went and she just held my hand. She's like, "You're gonna be fine, honey. Don't." I'm like, "Yes, okay, you're right." Because it's like I had that smidgen second that I was just like, "What the hell?" I mean, because literally the previous year, I'd lost my uncle to Hodgkin's lymphoma. So it's a different stem. So I'm thinking, okay, great. Something's in my spinal cord, so I'm never gonna feel below my waist again or walk, or I'm gonna die of cancer, because it just happened to my uncle, and they, the ER doctor didn't know any specifics. It was just what she could kind of tell and see. So I'm just sitting there like, that was like going through my head. And that's like when the tears dropped a little bit. She's like, don't worry about it, you'll be fine. I'm like, okay. So got to the other hospital, and I actually got the chief of neurosurgery that like had come in.
Okay.
And he goes, oh, Mr. Carso. He's like, okay. And he goes and looks, he's like, well, he goes, yeah, this is kind of a rough deal, huh? And I'm like,
yeah, no kidding, right?
And he's just like, he's like, well, don't worry. He's like, you'll be on the table in like 2 hours tops. And I'm like, okay. He goes, don't worry, we're gonna take those things out and you'll walk again. He goes, I'm pretty sure about that. He goes, past that, we'll just have to see what happens. And I'm like, the cancer thing I didn't even care about anymore. I'm like, oh, I can re-walk?
Yeah.
I'm like, I didn't think you could cut open a spinal cord.
I never knew that either. I mean,
like you hear all these injuries,
yeah.
like necks and this and that,
Right.
and that's like the no zone. And I'm like, he's like, oh, no, we're just gonna open right up, boom, plop them right out, maybe put a little steel in your back to help you out, sew you up, and you're good to go. And I'm like, okay. And he goes, and then you can go to the next chapter of what we're gonna do treatment-wise and stuff like that. I was like, okay. And I went, and I remember getting out, because when my brother passed, it was literally like 2 days after. It's like, obviously I'm a fan of art, so I had put like a tattoo like on my back, and he comes in after I woke up, and he's like, Joey, I just want to let you know, he goes, where I had to like open you up, kind of like went through just the bottom portion where like I had some script written for my brother. He goes, but you know what, it took me about 45 minutes, but I think I pretty much got everything like lined up.
Wow.
And he goes, I saw what it was, and I just didn't have the heart just to put, I'm like, so it was like these little small like victories of like people that I met through like the worst time of my life, actually these little acts of kindness, I'm like kind of like a pay it forward type of thing that really went a long way. So and after that, it started my journey of learning to re-walk. I was in a walker for, I don't know, probably like over just like a month until I can kind of like use like a cane, like back brace and the whole deal. And like going around, of course, being that young, everyone's like, oh, you're in a motorcycle accident? I'm like, yeah, it's exactly what happened.
It sounds super
you
cool,
should
right?
have seen that jump. And so then it just started like treatments, and I had to do 12 rounds of chemo, then 15 rounds of radiation, because they wanted to hit just the back part, because they were having trouble because there was no case study that they could find anywhere in the world of this stem of cancer starting in the spinal cord.
Oh, okay.
So there was like, hey, we've done this many bone marrow biopsies, and nothing's there. Your blood's fine, and so there was that. So of course I kind of became almost one of those like little lab rats type of thing, because like all these different doctors are in. It's like, oh, well, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? So it then stemmed to, at least I got to meet like another like wonderful person, like my chemo nurse Yvonne, which I'll like never forget her. She was like, she was the best. We get there the first day, I had a little entourage with me, and I'm just like in my walker and look like hammered hell, with my back brace on and everything else, but like smiling and this and that. And I was in like a main room at my hospital. They had ones that you could have like separate rooms, but those usually got taken up first, and you're just kind of just like a gurney.
Okay.
And then she goes, and the next week we get there, she's like, oh, no, come on, sweetie. She's like, I got your spot. And I'm like, okay. And it's like literally said reserved, like on a door.
Nice.
She's like, you're too positive. And she goes, there's two different kinds of cancer patients. Ones that are like, nope, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna hammer it out, I'm gonna make it. And others that are just kind of like, is it over yet? Like, I'm kind of cool. I'm like, don't worry about it. And she was like the best. I'd go, and when finally got to get married later on down the road, I made sure I brought her pictures, and we had kids, and we put the kids, and it was like literally I go visit her a few times a year. And I had given her a picture like 4 or 5 years ago, and I'd still see her and see it at the nurse's station, and like pictures up there. And she goes, I get so many questions on this. I'm like, those are just my white babies. I just love them so much. Like it was the best. Like I met so many amazing people through like a
such
very
a hard
difficult time. Yeah. And but unfortunately, after a month, I ended up coming back, and then I had to do a bone marrow transplant. So I was under lock and key. I had to do 2 stints. So the first time I was there was 4 weeks, and you're pretty much like quarantined.
Really?
So the gist is they give you so much chemo, you have no immune system left. And then they pump clean white cells back into you in the sense that hopefully your body forgets how to make cancer. So it'll reproduce good ones, is the layman's terms of it.
Yeah.
And then second round was like 2 months, and it was just, I went from like kind of free loving this dirt, this and that, to like becoming like the biggest germaphobe on the planet, because like you were like literally taught that everything was bad. And literally the diet for that was like eat fried food. Like,
really?
Like don't eat vegetables, no salads, no nothing. And I'm like, this seems like way opposite of anything. And like, he goes, if it's fried, I know it's been overcooked. It's like when it comes to salads and that, there's pesticides, can be this and that, and your body can't. So it was the most opposite thing you could think of.
Yeah, totally.
So it was like a trying couple years getting to like all those treatments. It was one of those things that left the most monstrous void. Is like I didn't even have a chance to grieve like my brother.
Right, because all this happened within such a short time frame that you were diagnosed. He passed away. And...
Yeah, it was. So he had passed away April, and then I was literally diagnosed October. So it was just like this weird thing, and then on like the emotion level, it's like my old man actually came down from Oregon, like literally was with me at the hospital probably for like 4 or 5 weeks.
And you hadn't seen him since you were like 6
we
or
had
here and there?
No, we had relationship.
Okay.
It was it ended up being kind of when I was like, let's just do buddy thing. You know, this works out better for us. It's like, you know, it's kind of hard where you see you once a month here or there, and you're like, don't do this, don't do that. It's like, you know, I mean, we're good.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
It was kind of one of those, but like came and, you know, had a lot of talks, and it's like, you know, and I sat there and I kind of like, you know, I like looked at it from tried to look at it from his standpoint, how he was feeling. You know, I'm sure there was some guilt. It's like literally his youngest just passed away.
Right.
And it was only me and my brother. And now here I am, like arguably on a deathbed. So, you know, I try to look at the positive end of it, that I'm like, you know what, it's like, made it out, I'm not gonna do this harping on him or anything like that. It was nice to have company.
Yeah,
you know?
totally.
So, and then that's when I told him, I go, this is gonna be done. Like, don't fret. And I'm like, hey, if you're having like this guilt trip, I go, I'm gonna have kids. I'm gonna figure out one way or another. You know, it's like, luckily my medical team let me know what to prep for and things like that, so I can have kids later. And I go, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna get out here. I'm gonna get married. I'm gonna have kids and carry on. You know how it goes. I go, if there's things that you thought that you missed or didn't do or that you're upset about, I go, you're gonna have grandkids. I go, they will. If they think that rainbows and cookies come from your rear end, I'll be like, yes, they do. It's like they'll never hear a negative thing from you in regards to anything. Like, just do what you kind of wish that you would have done or whatever. Just do it times 10 for them. Perfect. And they can go from there. And it was he was just like almost like in shock. Yeah. But like, why? It's like, you know, the glass is always half full.
Exactly. And I love that you stayed positive through this whole thing. Yeah, I'm sure mentally, like, it was draining going through the things that you went through, but I love that you continuously stayed positive and found reasons to, you know, keep going. Now, going through this whole experience, did it affect your physical health at all?
Oh, yeah, it was horrible. It was, I mean, I still even like now deal with just like some balance issues.
Okay.
It's like I walk, run, jump, do all the things, maybe not as great as I used to when I played sports in high school and things of that nature, but a lot more than what my doctors thought. So they're like, we're confident you're gonna walk and be able to do that thing, but we'll see. But yeah, no, literally I had to learn to rewalk. Just like everything hurts, like in chemo.
All the time,
it's the worst.
okay.
Like if you stubbed your toe the night before and then you went to go get chemo, you'd swear your toe's gonna fall off.
Really?
During it. It's like, it just attacks the weakest part of your body. So by being opened up like on my back, it was like literally just like, it's terrible. I mean, even now when it's cold, it's like sometimes I swear I can count the threads that must be in the screws that are like in my back. When I had to do my my bone marrow transplant, the chemo was like so dense and harsh that they can't put it through a regular IV through your veins because they won't be able to put enough water. It would literally eat you inside out in a sense. So they have to put a Hickman catheter in, they call it, that literally goes in like through your neck and it goes like directly to your heart.
Okay.
So that way they can connect to that. It can go more high pace, and it got to be tough. They're like, oh yeah, just everything's cool and this and that, and it's like, you know, I mean, I've been with my wife like for a long time, and even then I'm like, and she never looked at me any different whether I was on my deathbed or not. But you know, I'm get out of the shower and go and dry off, and I just got like this permanent like tube hanging from my chest. I'm like, oh yeah, like I feel sexy. This is just, so there was a lot of psyche that could like really like beat the hell out of you. That is the hardest part. You know, the physical stuff of like, to me it's like pain's pain. Like you just figure out, work out, it's like to deal with it. And if I go a little more this route, then it doesn't hurt as bad. So you favor that, but when it comes to like getting out of your own head is the hardest.
Right.
So I mean, even to this day, it's like I'll usually have probably like 2 or 3 episodes a year where I'll just sit there and I'm like, it's like, oh man, it's like, oh, my back feels a little sore today. Like you just kind of jump into your own head.
Got
like
it.
that, oh my God, is it bad? Like,
Yeah.
it's the worst. Like kind of trying to block that part out, you know? I have like one of those memories. It's like, you know, a lot of like real terrible, like bad things. Like I forget. It's like, I'll tell my wife all the time, like, I don't know how you did it, because I know you remember. Like, she has the memory of an elephant. Trust me. If I forgot to do something, I'll know about it.
She'll remind you.
Yeah, but I remember we were at a like a barbecue or something. It was only a few months after, and like, oh my God, like, you must have been so sick. And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like, I didn't get sick once. She looked at me, she's like, you out of your mind? Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, no, there's like I got stored up or something. She's like, I was like, before your hair fell out, like I was holding it like daily for like a month. I'm like, I don't even remember. Like I just literally physically just completely blocked it out. Like not intentionally per se, but
Right.
so it's so no, there's like repercussions from it. Like the physical then was insane. Like trying to get back into work, just being in the construction industry, just with balance issues, it was sketchy, you know. I'm like, you know, like I ended up working for like a general contractor where, and they were doing more apartment stuff. So I'm sitting over here trying to walk with my subs and like, or an inspector, and I'm like on scaffolding, and I'm just like, I'm not a fan of heights anyway. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I can't really feel my feet all that great. I'm like, this is like, so there was just a lot of adjustment with work, life, everything else while going through it. I luckily ended up working with someone who was like amazing. Actually met him through coaching baseball.
Okay.
So I was on disability for obviously like doing treatments and everything. And one of my buddies got a coaching job at a local high school. And he goes, hey, I could really use you in the dugout. You can coach. I'm like, I'm in a back brace and a walker. I can't be hitting baseballs. He's like, no, I could use like a bench coach, this and that. You know, the game, the psyche. I'm like, okay. I go, you know what? I'm not someone needs me. It was kind of that. Like I'm at home, like, oh, someone needs me to go do something. Like, oh yeah, I might as well donate my time. And I actually ended up coaching her for like 5 or 6 years.
Oh, nice.
Like it made it work. But I met one of my catcher, his father like owned a company like doing building apartments and custom homes and this and that. And they ended up having a conversation like, oh, what's Joey do? He's like, oh, he's like some hotshot project manager, some like fence company. But he's like, I don't know why he's doing fence. He could do more. He's like, well, is he like? He's like, no, he hates the place. He's like, we need to talk. And so we went and had a conversation. He's just like, well, I hire you now. I go, well, I'm still doing. He's like, don't even worry about it. If you got to go, if you don't feel good one day, you got to go to treatment, go. If you're not feeling good and you work from home, he's like, we have email these days. He goes, obviously I can't tell you to stop coaching baseball. He goes, I think it's amazing. Go coach baseball. And I'm like, well, it was just, once again, meetings like through, I would have met even him. I wouldn't be able to coach baseball if I wasn't sick. So it's like everything has like
everything
weird.
falls into a place. Yeah, it's really weird, but like it's almost like everything happens for a reason, but in a really weird way. We'll never know the reasons why.
Right.
But it does happen. I think you staying so positive through everything has opened so many more doors for you. Where if you were negative and fell into that negative mindset, maybe those things wouldn't have opened up for you and it wouldn't have happened. So through this whole thing, at what point did you start getting back into fitness?
From the get-go, just learning to walk. I mean, it's kind of an elementary fitness part, but that had like started. Like I literally bought myself a guitar. I'm like, I'm gonna learn to play guitar because I can't do this. And I'm like, I tried 2 days, and I'm like, or I can start to sit here and just learn to walk. And so literally, I haven't touched it since. And so it was that, and just trying to dabble a little bit more into it. I came from like a very like a competitive background in sports, you know, between basketball and football, and then I pretty much like watching every other sport. So it was very hard because I'm like, no, I should be running faster, jumping higher, I should be doing this, and there was just things beyond my control from being sick. So it would like kind of like damage me in the head a little bit more than like help. So it didn't like take a back burner, but it wasn't, you know, I'd have one of those like dinky little gym memberships and show up there, and I'm like, but as opposed to going, oh, I should probably go an extra 5 mile or 5 more minutes on the bike, I'm like, no, that's good. I think I'm just gonna go stretch in the sauna now. Sounds like
I was stuck on that for the longest time. Just going in the sauna, like, this is good enough for my rest of my workout.
It's like I'm sitting in the jacuzzi, like I'm here. So it got to be that. Like I needed that a little bit more of like a coaching aspect. It's like, yeah, you might not be able to do what you did, but that comes with age, period, regardless of the medical stuff.
Right.
And I knew it was always prevalent. I know it was always important. I'd be at work and we'd have like, oh, we're gonna have a diet race. It's the beginning of the year, and a lot of times I'd do really well, but it wasn't that I would just I'd sit there starving myself or whatever, or just eat as minimal as possible, which wasn't great either. And then literally go sit in the sauna. I'll just sweat out pounds and win $100 and see what happens.
Because it's a short amount of time. It's not anything that you're sustaining.
No, because as soon as it was done, it's like boom, like balloon right back up and do it all over again and try to win more money.
There you go.
But it was like a vicious cycle. But it wasn't happy about it. It was like all I was doing was just enough, and barely that. I tried to get into like an adult softball league, and then which is so much like time off. Like I sit there, I'm like, wait, no, I was kind of used to being like one of the top 2 people picked for the team. And I feel like they're carrying me, and it was like, okay, now I gotta do more solo stuff. So it's my wife was like getting into like 5Ks and stuff like that, so I would crank off a couple of those with her, and then I actually did a half marathon, which was horrible.
Oh, man.
Because it wasn't I wasn't in that like I need to train for this mode. Like so I like literally damn near crawled through the 13 miles, it felt like, but it was an accomplishment. I mean, it was good. It was like, okay, I took a step in the right direction, but wasn't doing anything to aid those. It was just kind of like, oh, we get to get outside and go do something, and then I can like notch off that I've worked out for this month, is what it kind of felt like when I really look back and think about it. But it wasn't until my kids that I realized, okay, I put on a lot of weight, because even pregnancy was an uphill, horrible battle for us. But it wasn't until, I always wanted to play hockey, but we didn't have the means growing up where we grew up to play hockey. So, saved up money, and it's like my son's like, Daddy, I really want to play hockey. I'm like, that's my boy. Like, so we're doing that, and I'm like watching him skate, and I'm like, well, I should be skating with him. Like they're at the beginning ages now that it's like I really got to chase them, and I felt like I was lagging in that department because I put on weight like through the pregnancy and pretty much kept it on. So I mean, we had to do in vitro because of all my treatments, and luckily I was told by my oncologist before my first treatment, she's like, you're most likely going to have to do is just prep for it. And I was like, oh, thank God, because
she did.
You
got that heads up, right?
So we had to do in vitro, and it's like, my wife was young, so I go, oh, so how many do you want us to put in? It's like, that's like scary, and it's like, do you want 2 or 3? So I recommend, it's like, well, let's do 2, because if all 3 take, then we're already outnumbered. So, and both took. So I have a son and a daughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, my joys, but my little minions. But it was right off the get-go, just because of twins, you're already kind of on a little more of a radar through pregnancy, just because it's like, not like it's uncommon, but it's not as just normal as just one child in there. But we started having issues with pregnancy. Like my wife was like, she felt like she was like leaking like a little bit and stuff like that. And they went through, and then we literally had a doctor go and tell us like, oh, well, one twin A looks good, twin B is gonna die, so you should probably just get rid of it so that way it doesn't affect twin A. And we're like,
gosh, it had to be hard.
Yeah, like this, like we're stuck there, and like this is what I'm like, oh my gosh, I should probably kill you. You just told my pregnant wife, who's a walking emotion, like, and it was zero tact. It was like, that's pretty much how it came out. And I'm like, okay, or what? It's like, because he's like, whoa, you'll be back in like 2 weeks anyway, so we'll just see what happens. And then She kept growing. It's like, I still think she probably doesn't have kidneys. That's why like her amniotic sac has like no fluid in it. So it's like she has no kidneys, so she's eventually gonna die. You don't want her to affect the other one. I'm like, can you just get off of that? It's not gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna go through the whole deal. No, we're not. It's like we're doing in vitro. There's already an aspect where you kind of feel like you're playing a little bit of God, but just luckily the technology was there for us to be able to do something of that nature. I'm like, no, it's not. It's not happening. So just get off it. And it got to a point that I'm like, I called and I'm like, I need a different doctor. I go, I understand, or I don't understand, but I guess I can half respect that he has a medical opinion. That's what we're paying him for. But I go, it's not an option, so no.
Respect your wishes at the end of the day.
So luckily we had got a different doctor, and she had kind of like half mentioned to begin with, like, he's not 100% wrong. I'm like, okay, great. It's not going to happen. If there's nothing that's physically harming my wife or anything else, I said, no, everything. I'm like, okay, good. Then she's like, perfect, no problem.
And clearly your child had the no excuse mentality, just like you.
Yes.
Because she made it.
Yeah.
Both of your kids made it. And I mean, that's awesome that you didn't give up, because some people do just listen to the doctors, and doctors aren't always right.
Like, no, you got to question. It's
even when they prescribe you medication, you have to question it, because sometimes things can be healed through fitness, like just living a healthier lifestyle.
So we it was actually hilarious when we ended up living at the hospital for like 6 weeks, because it was like literally they were worried that she was gonna start leaking more. So finally our doctor goes, he goes, I think that she has kidneys. I'm not worried about that. She goes, I think that she might be a rupture in like the sac or something. And I'm like, okay. And so we went, we were going in her C-section, and it was funny because our doctor was like, she's a total rock star. You know, it's like just not your atypical doctor, which was perfect for my wife's and I's quirky attitude. And then she goes, well, she definitely has kidneys because she's peeing all over me. And I'm like, that's my girl. Like, it was, it was good. It was another tiny victory, you know.
Right, all those tiny victories.
I went and I hung out. They had to go to the NICU, of course. And my son was there a couple weeks, but my daughter had to be there like 6 weeks, and I'd just be there every morning. And I wasn't much of a lullaby guy, so I just sung her Patience from Guns N' Roses, because like, it's kind of like half fitting. Like, I'd whistle it to her. And the greatest thing now is she's 5, and it'll come on the radio, and it's like whatever she's doing, she like hears the whistle. I won't tell her anything. She goes and stops. She's like, Daddy, it's our song.
Oh,
like,
that's so cute.
It's like, so it's, I don't know, it's just always been just positive. But through that rough pregnancy, it's like that whole 6 weeks that my wife's in the hospital, like I stayed there. So it was like eating crap food. Like I put on so much weight in there. There was no time to do anything, because I mean, I'd go to work and then I'd race home and go like make sure dogs are alive and feed them and stuff like that, and then like head back to Hollywood and spend a night there. And it was just, I got out and I looked at pictures like when they were born. I'm like, oh my God. And it was like a realization then, and then that's when I kind of got into a little diet race thing. Like, I'll do a 5K here and there, but it wasn't enough. It wasn't until my kids were getting super active that I'm like, I want to be able to chase them around. It's like up and down, like 30, 40 pound swings all the time. It's like, this can't be healthy. And eventually I'm gonna get to an age, it's not gonna work anymore. Like it just won't at this pace. And I knew I wanted to do something more. Like I wanted to invest a little bit more in me, you know, and see if I can't do something like boost up some ego or just something of that nature. And one of my good buddies, we were actually going to a baseball game, and we're gonna meet. I'm like, and I get over there, I'm like, hey, I brought us a couple beers so we can drink for like, you know, we head inside or whatever, pregame, not before we spend like $20 on a beer. And he's just like, oh, I can't. And I'm like, I go, what? I was like, this is weird. He's like, oh, well, I started this like 6-week challenge thing. And I'm like, okay, well, what the hell is that? It's like, well, I'm 2 weeks in, I've lost like 7 pounds. But my pants are kind of feel like I feel kind of good. And it's like, we're not supposed to have any of that, so I'm not going to. And I'm like, wait a minute, you are not the clicky guy ever, and never really listened to rules. So this is kind of, so it was like,
it intrigued you.
Yeah, it was definitely. And then it got to be Christmas time. And then I was like, oh, so what do you want? And I'm like, yeah, you know what, my buddy Tony was like, it's kind of like, I need to do something. And he said that actually the gym is like literally like a block away from like my job site that I'm on. And most of our work's around there anyway. I go, I'd be curious to just maybe go look at a class or something of that nature. So she actually got a hold of Jason, the
This
trainer.
is for the Hollywood Fit Body,
Yes.
correct? Okay.
Yeah. So she got a hold of Jason, and he's like, "Oh, yeah, no, I know Tony, this and that," and they kind of exchanged some information and started chasing. He's like, "Okay, well, you're signed up." He's doing another 6-week challenge at the beginning of the year, which makes a perfect sense. Everybody wants to. Oh, I gotta get ready for summer and New Year's resolution and stuff. So I'm like, "So you're signed up for it?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So went, and just at first I'm like, I was just worried because that it was gonna be like those aerobic-y and everybody clapping together type of classes. Like I wanted to go and I wanted to be like challenged, and I thought it was interesting when I walked in, and Jason had on like a Fit Body shirt, and on the back it says coach, and I'm like, that's interesting, because whenever you go to the gym, everything says like trainer and this and that, and I thought like that really spoke to me. I'm like, coach. I'm like, well, we'll see, like, because it was that. I'm like, that's what I want. I don't want a trainer. I want teach me how to do it, but then also get on me if I'm not doing what I need to be doing as well. And I was like, I already win. I went on. I'm like, oh, I signed up for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday. I'm like, it's aerobics, whatever. I'm just doing it to do it type of thing. And I when I had to like text on the next one, I'm like, I'm not gonna make it to Tuesday class. I'm like so sore. It's not even funny. And it was like after my first one, I'm like,
it gets you the first time.
Yeah. And I'm like, okay, like I didn't even know there was a muscle in that area that's like I can feel right now. And so it got more intriguing, and then it got to be okay, like I would already win and like did a bunch of meal prep kind of stuff and tried to plan out some meals that were simple because we still have the kids, so it's not like we can some of these like gourmet ones that come out like I'm like, oh, that looks amazing. I don't know if I have time to do that. See what can I take out that would make it maybe a little quicker, and try to modify and stuff of that nature. And yeah, I started going, and I'm like, okay, no, twice a week's not enough. I want to go 3. I want to go 4. And as it got a little easier and then my body started recovering better, Jason's like, literally, you need to take a day off because you got to rest too. He's like, you can't just be going
rest is
all
important,
here.
absolutely.
And that's the part that I don't get between waking up so early to go to work and to the gym, and then my kids in the evening. It's like I'm already right in that 5-hour sleep range. So I know that's something I got to figure to work on still. But it got to be fun, and then you start to get to know people like in your class. I mean, I do the 5:30 in the morning, so it's very cult-like because nobody wants to wake up at that time.
No, exactly, right?
So it's all the same faces, it's all high fives, and it's one of those things. Just like talking, like Jason was like, oh, I noticed that you interact a whole lot more with people now. Like after like a few weeks, I was like, yeah. I just remember when I was sitting there and like afterwards, like do your final like burnout, and you're laying there like, oh God, like that was great, but oh man, I'm like tired. That like someone would come up and give me like a high five, and I'm like, well, thank you, good job to you too. Like that was like, yeah, I did finish it. Let's get on with the day. And I remember how important it was with me, like when I first started and before I had an idea of like what the exercises were, and now I find myself after being there for 6 months now or 5 months that I know like what's coming. Like I can read the board, and then 99% of the time I know what they are. So it's like as new people come in, it's like, oh hey, we're doing this and that, and kind of very family-like.
Yes.
And that was so intriguing to me because everyone's helping each other. So now I find myself, I want to jump up as quick as I can and beat everyone for the first high fives and things of that nature. And it's just been fun. It's like it's like we weigh in like here and there, but that's part I'm like, whatever. I'm throwing out clothes that like look just retarded big on me now. So I'm like, get rid of those, and I'm like, I feel better. Like I go to my job site and I kind of let them know what's going on, and you get a little bit of gas. It's construction. Like, oh, you're going to your aerobics class? I was like, no, it's nothing like that. And then after a few weeks, they're like, damn, like you're like kind of like tightening up and this and that, and they're just like, and then they know the days I didn't make it. Like if I took a day off, because I'd be a little more ornery at work. Like it started to become a trigger. Like, no, I don't necessarily need coffee. Like I want to do my morning thing. It's all like it's selfish time almost, like but first thing in the morning.
We need that. We all need that selfish me time.
So it was that they started noticing when I wasn't there, and no, it's been a blast. Like I just literally feel it's funny. I feel more fit in my head than anywhere else. Like I just kind of feel cleared out on a lot of things. It's kind of go there, burn a bunch of, you got like some negative energies going on.
Get that aggression out, whatever it may be. So how has your life changed? I mean, with your kids and everything else since going to Fit Body?
I actually went and I I actually texted Jason a picture that my wife had took, and we just went to like an open ice rink skate. And I was there, and I was holding it, and she took it, and I was like, oh, I love that picture, it's awesome. She goes, you wouldn't have done this like 4 months ago. Nothing against you, not that you wouldn't want to, but maybe physically not capable. And it didn't dawn on me that she looked at me like that way, like in that light when we were doing it, like in a positive nature, but I was like, man, that's cool. So I literally went, and I'm like, sorry, Jason, it's so late, but I'm like texting it to him, and he's like, so that's awesome, that's perfect. And it's that, like, I feel like, okay, my 5-year-olds that just seem like they're running on like sugar and caffeine something all the time, running everywhere. It's like, no, now you gotta try to keep up with your old man.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
And there's that, like, everything now is planned that way. I actually signed up even for a triathlon.
Nice.
It's a mini one, but it's a
triathlon.
So,
it's always a start.
So I'm kind of like, I would have never even dabbled in that. 5Ks they're kind of more fun than they're not. They can be challenging if you make them, but for a lot of times there's a lot of just kind of lax people, and they almost make little disco parties out of the 5Ks these days. But the triathlon, like, that'd be cool. Like, hit like all elements, and I don't think I would have had the nerve definitely to do that before. So.
And you said you've only been there 6 months. I mean, you've already seen this big of a change. I can't imagine all the changes you're going to see as you continue on with the program.
And that's what I'm excited about. Like, he sent like a before and after picture after like our 6 weeks, and then we did like a detox one, and he had like one that was awesome that started like from January to when I started the detox, and then like after the detox, I'm like, cool, because I look in the mirror and I don't see it.
Because you see yourself every day. You don't see those minor changes. You may feel the certain little changes here and there, but you don't see it until you see those pictures in front of you. And like, oh my gosh.
And it's just, see that, I'm like, man, because it's just because I'm like really, really, really hard on myself. So it's like, to me, like the scale does more damage than good. Because I'm like, oh, you lost like 10 pounds. Like, if I'd gone a little harder, it would have been 12. Like, I get that mindset. So to see that laid out, it's been like amazing, just so.
And now I'm curious. So I know you have, with the rods and everything in your back. Does that affect you when you're working out? Do they have to make modifications for you during the workouts?
Not so much like my back. I do have like a patch like kind of in my thigh that it's got like kind of like a tingly, like sometimes it really hurts, sometimes it doesn't. It's just neurological. So I have a little bit more balance issues in my left than in my right. And I'm like, was right up front. I go, I want to try everything. So I go, unless like I'm doing something where I'm hurting myself, like it's okay to like push me, like, cause I don't want to like, I want it, if I need it modified because I'm just going to hurt myself, then by all means, but I don't want to be catered to kind of in a sense, but that's my mindset,
right?
On it. And there's certain ones that I'll sit there and I might have to, like the first 3 rounds, it's like I didn't get it, but I'm like, I'm gonna at least get one of these in, whether I should be or not, by the 4th, and he helps push me for that. But then we'll also know. So another repercussion or consequence of like the chemo and stuff like that is like now I actually suffer from gout, which is horrible. So I've actually had like one like gout episode since being there where it's like you swear it's like literally like chopping off your toe. Sounds like a better plausible idea where I'll go and tell them like, okay, like this is there. So it's like sometimes the ones like the plates where like you're on your toes a lot that I'm like, oh, I gotta try that next week because it's impossible right now. But we have like other people like in our class as well that have like some knee ailments from like old football injuries or this and that, and it's always like okay, we're gonna do this, like, okay, no, here off the wall, give me this, you're still in like the whole time. And it's amazing to me on how fast it is, like on like a split of time. It's like, okay, yeah, no, for you that exercise with that knee, no, do this way. And I'm like, it's fun to watch how knowledgeable that everybody's still getting like the same workout. Like everyone's still at the end has got sweaty shirts, this and that.
Everyone's dripping.
Yeah, but then it's like we at our club, we actually like after every class, like we actually try and put our fist up and we shout out unity. Like it's just we kind of finished it out. And it's funny, even everyone going over there and they could be just like dragging a little bit, like they're just exhausted. It's like everyone busts that out and like everyone has a smile. Yeah, you're tired, but like, you killed it this morning. Like you did your thing and everyone's on to go start their day. And it's
I mean, I love the family feel. I've attended multiple Fit Body boot camps, and I just know all of our locations everywhere. You always get that family feel, and that's what keeps me going back. That's what keeps everyone going back. It's like you have that support, that system, and it's like you don't want to let them down.
Right.
They don't want to let you down, and so it's just a win-win for everybody.
Even was like, haven't seen you in a couple of days. What's going on?
Exactly,
like, it's,
right? Yeah.
Held accountable, which is perfect too.
So, what does living beyond the scale mean to you?
It's it actually was kind of easy to kind of figure that out or know I was doing it when I started at the gym. Because of course everyone have your first weigh and it's like, oh God, that's terrible. And then we get weighed in. I want to say it was like every week to check on the 6 weeks, and it's like, okay, cool, but I went and looked, and some weeks were good, some weeks were bad. Like, it seemed like, oh wait, I did everything and I didn't lose a pound. And then you go to the next week, it's like, well, I kind of felt like I slacked, but you lost like 4, and you're like, the scale was like everywhere. It was like all over the place. But then I went and I started going like, yeah, sure, I'll weigh in, but I don't really care, because like up here, like I'm like, man, I feel good. I've always been say hello to someone in the elevator. Even in California, people are like but I'm just like, what's happening? Like, but you know, like through being sick and then different trials and tribulations, like through my life, I've wanted to do it more, even though I never stopped. And this actually made me kind of feel like, God, before I kind of felt like I was saying it to just try to make someone else's day better. Now I feel like I'm doing it because I actually feel kind of happy. Like I feel kind of good, like inside. And it's like, you know, I suffer from like, you know, self-confidence, like issues and stuff like that. Like weight was always kind of like an issue for the most part. And even now I get on, I say, oh my God, I guess I'm like, yeah, I don't know, I guess. Like, I still don't see it and stuff, but of course when you're hearing like compliments and things like that, that helps on the hearing part for yourself. But I feel like inside though is different. Like, I'm like, so I'm trying to push on that. Then obviously if I'm growing in there and I'm working out and wanting to do it harder and harder, then I know then the physical attributes will come also. But I think it's more, it almost feels like just like kind of a cleanse in a sense. Like, you know, I know people talk about those like herbal cleanse type of things, but it's like even better because it's like emotional, it's psychological, and it's physical. Like you're kind of working it all at the same time. And then, you know, with your family atmosphere with everybody else, like everyone else feels that good too. It's like you're there and like everyone like kind of walks like their shit don't stink. It's like kind of like, yeah, like because they're feeling from the inside out. And I would say that's it. It's just like literally you have a skip to your step and you don't even realize it. Like you could be sitting a little taller, standing a little taller, you don't even know. And it's just, and I think that would be the living beyond a scale. It's like scale's a number, and you're going, it's gonna follow if you're working on the inside and putting in more work. So.
Just living your best life. I love that. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for
You're
sharing your
welcome.
story with us today. I think you're going to help so many people just really obtain that no excuse mentality, which thank you for keeping that all the way through everything that you've been through. And for those of you in the Hollywood area that want to work out with Joey and the rest of the crew, make sure you check out Hollywood Fit Body Boot Camp. And if you are anywhere else and want to check out Fit Body Bootcamp to get started on your fitness journey, make sure you check out fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free sessions and find a location near you.
Until next time, don't forget to live a fit body, fit mind forever. Did you know that you could have done a full workout in the amount of time it took you to listen to this podcast? Go to fitbodybootcamp.com to claim your 3 free sessions now. And remember to join me next Tuesday so you can see who our special guest is. Until then, remember to live a fit body, fit mind forever.